How everyone walks around like everything is under control, economy steady, emotions balanced, sanity intact. And then you show up. Hello. Yeah, I'm talking to you. Do you have any idea what you've done? Your smile, that dangerous, unapologetic, reckless smile, it's not cute anymore. It's not charming. It's not harmless. It's a public safety hazard. Sirens should go off when you walk into a room. Warning labels should be printed on your selfies. Caution causes heart palpitations. May disrupt emotional stability. Handle with extreme care. Because every time you smile, someone loses focus. Every time you laugh, someone forgets their problems. Every time you shine, the whole system glitches. You're not just existing. You're collapsing structures. Confidence you built from pain. That threatens insecure minds. Peace you found after chaos. That terrifies people addicted to drama. Happiness you wear without apology. That shakes foundations. You're single-handedly collapsing the fragile little walls people hide behind. And the craziest part, you don't even realize your power. You thought your smile was just survival. You thought your glow was just healing. You thought your presence was just normal. No, it's disruptive. It's revolutionary. It's dangerous to a world that profits from your self-doubt. So, tonight, we're not here to tone it down. We're here to understand it, to own it, to weaponize it. Because if your smile is a public safety hazard, then maybe this world desperately needs the chaos you bring. Let's begin. They told you a smile is just a facial expression, a polite gesture, a social tool. Something you put on for pictures and take off when life gets serious. That's what they want you to believe. Because if you ever realize what it really is, you'd understand why it makes people uncomfortable. A real smile isn't decoration. It's dominance. Not loud dominance. Not the kind that shouts or demands attention. It's quieter than that. More dangerous. It walks into a room without asking permission. It doesn't beg for validation. It doesn't shrink to make others comfortable. It simply exists, steady, unbothered, certain, and certainty that terrifies fragile systems. When you smile after surviving something that was meant to break you, you send a message without saying a word. You say, you didn't win. You say, I'm still here. You say, I built strength where you expected weakness. That kind of energy shakes foundations, because systems, whether social, emotional, or psychological, depend on your insecurity to function smoothly. Think about it. How many industries survive on doubt? How many relationships rely on one person feeling smaller? How many environments stay stable only because someone believes they're not enough? Now imagine you walk in smiling, not fake, not forced, but earned. A smile built from pain, growth, discipline, and self-respect. That's not just positivity. That's power. Power disrupts hierarchy. When you're secure, you don't chase. When you're confident, you don't compete. When you're at peace, you don't react. And when you smile from that place, you become unpredictable. You're no longer easy to manipulate. You're no longer controlled by fear of rejection or judgment. You're operating from inner stability. That's when people start shifting in their seats. Because a person who doesn't need approval is hard to control. A person who can laugh after loss can't be threatened the same way. A person who smiles in chaos becomes the calm center others orbit around. And here's the part no one tells you. Your smile exposes cracks. It exposes the person pretending to be confident. It exposes the one who built their identity on comparison. It exposes the one who needs others to stay insecure so they can feel superior. Your joy becomes a mirror, and not everyone likes what they see in it. So they'll call you arrogant. They'll say you've changed. They'll try to dim it, question it, test it. Not because it's wrong, but because it's powerful. Power shifts rooms without noise. A genuine smile changes energy. Conversations soften. Tension loosens. Attention redirects. People either lean in or pull back. Either way, something moves. That's disruption. Not chaos for destruction, but disruption for awakening. Because when one person dares to stand steady and smile unapologetically, it gives silent permission for others to do the same. And if too many people wake up confident, peaceful, self-assured, the old structures built on fear start cracking. That's why your smile matters. It's not just expression. It's evidence. Evidence that you survived. Evidence that you evolved. Evidence that you refused to collapse just because life tried to push you down. And when you carry that evidence on your face, calm and fearless, you become more than a person in the room. You become a force that shifts it. Fear is quiet. It doesn't always scream. Sometimes it wears expensive clothes. Sometimes it speaks confidently. Sometimes it pretends to guide you. But underneath it all, fear is fragile. And the moment real confidence enters the room, that fragility starts to crack. Confidence isn't loud. It doesn't need to prove itself. It doesn't beg to be noticed. It doesn't fight for attention. It stands still. It breathes steady. It knows who it is. And that calm certainty, that's what unsettles people who built their lives on doubt. When you start believing in yourself, something shifts. You stop asking for permission. You stop over-explaining. You stop shrinking your opinions so others feel comfortable. You stop apologizing for taking up space. And the people who live in fear feel that shift immediately, because fear survives on comparison. If someone secretly doubts their worth, your confidence feels like a spotlight exposing them. If someone built their identity on being better than, your growth feels like a threat. If someone stays safe by never trying, your bold moves feel reckless and uncomfortable. Not because you're wrong, but because you remind them of what they're avoiding. Confidence challenges the comfort zone of the insecure. When you speak clearly without hesitation, it highlights someone else's uncertainty. When you take risks without obsessing over failure, it reveals who's paralyzed by what if. When you move forward without constant validation, it shakes the people who rely on approval to feel stable. And here's the truth. Most criticism isn't about you. It's about the discomfort your growth creates in someone who chose to stay small. Fear tells people to play safe, to blend in, to follow the pattern, to avoid standing out because standing out invites judgment. But when you decide to step forward anyway, when you decide your vision matters more than their opinions, you break the unspoken agreement to remain average together. That's when tension begins. You'll notice it in subtle ways. Backhanded compliments, passive jokes, sudden distance, doubt disguised as concern. Are you sure? That's risky. Maybe you should think about it. It sounds protective. But underneath, it's fear trying to pull you back into familiar territory. Because your confidence forces a choice. Either they rise or they resent. And not everyone is ready to rise. A person living in fear finds comfort in predictability. They feel safe when everyone operates at the same level. But when you start evolving, mentally, emotionally, financially, spiritually, you disrupt that balance. You prove that change is possible. You prove that excuses are optional. You prove that courage exists. And that proof is uncomfortable for someone who convinced themselves they can't. But understand this clearly. Confidence is not arrogance. Arrogance screams to cover insecurity. Confidence whispers because it doesn't need noise. Arrogance competes. Confidence creates. Arrogance needs validation. Confidence generates its own. That distinction matters. Because when you truly become confident, you're not trying to dominate anyone. You're not trying to make others feel small. You're simply refusing to stay small yourself. And that refusal is revolutionary. You walking in alignment with your worth becomes a silent rebellion against fear-based living. You choosing courage over comfort becomes an example. You moving despite doubt becomes evidence that fear is not authority. Some will be inspired. Some will be triggered. Both reactions are proof that your confidence carries weight. And the moment you stop dimming your light to ease someone else's insecurity, you realize something powerful. Fear only has power when you agree to bow to it. Pain has a reputation. It's supposed to break you, bend you, reduce you to something smaller than you were before. That's the narrative. That's the expectation. When life hits, you're supposed to stay down. When betrayal happens, you're supposed to become bitter. When failure knocks, you're supposed to accept that maybe you're not built for more. But healing rewrites that script. Healing is not soft. It's not weak. It's not passive. Healing is warfare in silence. It's choosing not to let what hurt you define you. It's waking up with heavy thoughts and still deciding to move. It's facing memories that sting and refusing to let them control your future. And when you transform pain instead of drowning in it, something extraordinary happens. Energy shifts. Pain by itself is heavy. It drains. It slows you down. It makes you question everything. Your worth, your direction, your strength. But when you process it, when you learn from it, when you extract meaning from it, that same pain becomes fuel. It becomes clarity. It becomes sharp focus. You stop chasing what once validated you. You stop tolerating what once diminished you. You stop repeating patterns that once felt familiar. Healing creates awareness. Awareness creates power. Think about the version of you before the struggle. Maybe you were more trusting. Maybe you were naive. Maybe you believed effort guaranteed loyalty or kindness guaranteed respect. Then reality hit. Hard. And for a moment you felt shattered. But instead of staying shattered, you rebuilt. That rebuilding is energy conversion. You turned betrayal into boundaries. You turned failure into strategy. You turned heartbreak into standards. You turned rejection into redirection. That's not weakness. That's evolution. People who never process their pain carry it like weight. It leaks into their conversations. It shows up in their reactions. It becomes defensiveness, anger, jealousy, insecurity. But when you heal, the pain doesn't leak. It transforms. It becomes composure. It becomes discernment. It becomes emotional intelligence. You become harder to shake. Healing teaches you patience. You learn that growth takes time. You learn that not every loss is punishment. You learn that discomfort often precedes elevation. And once you understand that, you stop panicking in storms. You start navigating them. That calmness. That's energy. There's a different presence about someone who has healed. They don't chase chaos because they've survived it. They don't romanticize struggle because they've endured it. They move differently, speak differently, decide differently, because they know what it costs to ignore red flags. They know what it feels like to hit rock bottom. They know what it took to climb back up. And that knowledge becomes fire, not reckless fire. Controlled fire, directed fire. When you've felt the worst and survived, your fear threshold changes. You're less intimidated by risk, less shaken by criticism, less attached to outcomes that once defined you. You've already endured what you thought would destroy you, and you're still standing. That realization alone creates unstoppable momentum. Healing doesn't erase scars. It repurposes them. Each scar becomes proof of resilience. Each lesson becomes protection. Each setback becomes preparation. You stop asking, why did this happen to me? And start asking, what is this shaping me into? That shift is everything. Because pain is raw energy. It doesn't disappear. It either consumes you or empowers you. And when you consciously choose to grow through it instead of harden from it, you take control of that energy. You refine it. You redirect it. You release it with intention. And suddenly, what once felt like your greatest weakness becomes your greatest source of strength. There's a silent agreement most people never talk about. Blend in. Don't say too much. Don't be too different. Follow the pattern. Smile when expected. Agree when convenient. Adjust yourself just enough to fit the room. That's how fake foundations are maintained. Not with strength, but with compliance. Authenticity breaks that agreement the moment you decide to be real. Unapologetically, consistently, visibly real. Something starts shaking. Because most structures around you weren't built on truth. They were built on performance. On pretending. On carefully edited versions of identity designed to impress. To avoid conflict, to secure approval. And when someone stops performing, the illusion weakens. Being authentic is risky. It means saying what you believe, even when it's unpopular. It means admitting what you feel instead of masking it. It means choosing alignment over applause. And alignment doesn't always look polished. Sometimes it's raw. Sometimes it's uncomfortable. Sometimes it disrupts rooms that were functioning perfectly fine on pretense. But here's the reality. Anything built on pretending is fragile. Fake confidence collapses when confronted with genuine self-assurance. Fake relationships weaken when faced with honest boundaries. Fake success trembles when compared to purpose-driven progress. Authenticity doesn't attack these things. It simply exposes them. And exposure feels like destruction to those invested in the illusion. When you stop laughing at jokes that disrespect you, dynamics change. When you stop agreeing just to keep peace, conversations shift. When you refuse to participate in gossip, manipulation loses momentum. Your refusal to play along becomes resistance. You don't have to shout. You don't have to argue. You just have to remain real. That's enough to unsettle people who survive by adapting to whatever environment benefits them most. Because authenticity cannot be manipulated easily. You can't pressure someone who knows who they are. You can't guilt someone who understands their values. You can't confuse someone who has clarity about what they stand for. So the tension builds. People may call you difficult. They may say you've changed. They may accuse you of thinking you're better. But what's really happening is this. The version of you that tolerated misalignment is gone. The version of you that shrank to keep things smooth has evolved. And evolution feels like rebellion to those who preferred the old you. Fake foundations rely on predictability. They rely on you staying the same. They rely on you not questioning the system. The moment you start asking deeper questions. Why do we do it this way? Who does this benefit? Is this aligned with who I am? Cracks begin forming because truth has weight. When you speak honestly, you force others to confront their own inconsistencies. When you live authentically, you challenge people who are exhausted from pretending. Some will feel inspired. Others will feel threatened. Both reactions confirm one thing. Authenticity moves energy. It's easier to wear masks. Masks protect you from rejection. Masks help you navigate different spaces smoothly. But masks also drain you. They disconnect you from yourself. And the longer you wear them, the harder it becomes to remember who you are underneath. Choosing authenticity is choosing integrity over image. It means your words match your actions. Your private self matches your public self. Your values don't change depending on the audience. That consistency creates strength. Real strength. Not curated strength for social approval, but grounded strength built on self-awareness. And when enough people start living like that, systems built on deception struggle to survive. Manipulation loses effectiveness. Peer pressure weakens. Superficial validation becomes irrelevant. Because authenticity doesn't need decoration. It doesn't need exaggeration. It doesn't need performance. It stands firm simply because it's true. There's a moment in life when you realize something dangerous. You were never meant to play small, not to make others comfortable, not to fit inside expectations that were too tight for your spirit, not to dim your light so insecure minds could rest easy. But owning your light requires courage, because once you fully step into it, the world has to respond. Light exposes. When you walk in full awareness of your worth, you stop negotiating your value. You stop accepting half effort, half respect, half love. You stop entertaining environments that require you to shrink. And the moment you do that, dynamics shift. People who benefited from your silence suddenly feel the loss of control. Situations that relied on your hesitation start collapsing. Owning your light is not about arrogance. It's about clarity. It's about understanding your strengths without guilt. It's about acknowledging your growth without downplaying it. It's about saying, yes, I've worked for this. Yes, I've earned this. Yes, I deserve to stand here. And that certainty forces adjustment. When you no longer seek constant validation, the people who controlled you through approval lose leverage. When you stop chasing acceptance, spaces that once dictated your self-worth lose influence. When you speak with conviction instead of apology, conversations reorganize themselves around your presence. The world is structured in subtle hierarchies. Social, professional, emotional. Some people are used to leading. Some are used to following. Some are used to staying invisible. When you decide to own your light, you disrupt the role you were assigned. You move from background to foreground, from doubting to deciding, from waiting to acting, and roles don't change quietly. People may test you. They may challenge your confidence. They may try to remind you of who you used to be, because your evolution forces them to see their stagnation. Your growth becomes a mirror, and not everyone is ready for reflection. But here's the power. When you truly own your light, you stop reacting to every shadow. You understand that criticism often comes from discomfort. You recognize that resistance is sometimes proof of impact. You no longer interpret every pushback as rejection. Sometimes it's simply adjustment. Adjustment is uncomfortable. When a room grows brighter, eyes need time to adapt. When standards rise, expectations shift. When one person refuses to settle, others must decide whether to elevate or exit. Your refusal to play small forces movement. And movement is necessary for growth. Owning your light also means responsibility. It means staying disciplined when shortcuts appear. It means staying grounded when praise increases. It means remembering that your light is not just for attention. It's for direction. It guides others. It creates possibility. It shows what's achievable. But you cannot guide if you're hiding. Too many people dim themselves to avoid envy. They mute their ambitions to avoid judgment. They silence their ideas to avoid rejection. And in doing so, they betray their potential. The world doesn't adjust to hidden light. It adjusts to visible courage. When you stand fully in who you are, opportunities shift toward you. Conversations become different. Energy aligns differently. You attract those who resonate and repel those who resist. That polarization isn't loss. It's alignment. Because the truth is simple, the world organizes itself around certainty. When you are unsure, it pushes you. When you hesitate, it tests you. But when you stand firm, clear, unapologetic, it recalibrates. Not because it wants to, but because it has no choice.